Hey folks, all right, well I just wanted to run through a quick wrap up of the course, maybe talk a little bit about the final exam, get everybody set for that. Hopefully what you took away from this course is an understanding of the different aspects involved in a software engineering project when it's of a bigger scale than a just sort of do-it-yourself few week type of programming problem. Right? When you have to work in a team, when you've got a product that involves a lot of code spread across a lot of different files maintained over a long period of time, the issues are substantially different than when you're just writing something for yourself or for one other person. So I hope that's raised some of the issues and your awareness of some of the things that you have to address in the wider programming scope. I do hope you also got a bit of an idea of the benefits you can get from automating some tasks using scripting. Right? We use Bash as your scripting language, but there are many others available. The ideas are the same, right? If you've got something you're going to do repeatedly or something that involves a lot of steps with potential for error in there, the potential for manual errors, then scripting can be a way of making that safer, making that faster, making that easier to repeat. So it is definitely a habit I would recommend getting into. If there's something that you have to do multiple times, then think about whether you could spend a little bit of time writing a script that will do it for you and remove a lot of the possibilities for error. We spent time looking at a lot of different tools this semester: debuggers, profilers, make, Git, right? Version control tools, automated build tools, GDB, gprof, Valgrind, and a lot of different tools. And again, I hope you got an appreciation for the kinds of tools we were looking at. Right? You don't need to use that specific debugger or that specific profiler. The concepts are the same in most, and the feature set is similar in most. So again, hopefully that's given you a good starting point for using these tools. The potential use for libraries, right? The idea of code reuse, not writing everything ourselves, making use of what's already out there to improve our productivity and to improve the reliability of the code, right? If we write something from scratch, we've got to go through and debug it and test it, and you're always a little bit leery until it's been in use for a while. So making good use of libraries, thinking about code reuse. We looked at a lot of different issues in terms of software design, coupling and cohesion, and abstraction and decomposition. We looked at different software development life cycles. We looked at code inspections, code standards, product deployment. So a lot of things dealing with the overall management of our project. And we spent a lot of time looking at testing in projects and what an important role that has to play. So, again, we covered a lot of topics. Right? A lot of these I just went through and mentioned, but we got into version control in Git, basic fluency in Linux, scripting, and Bash in particular, software development life cycles, spiral model, waterfall, agile. We went through the idea of requirements and specifications, and you'll spend a lot of time looking at this in other courses down the road. Design concepts, so decomposing, top-down design, modular design, abstraction, coupling and cohesion. We looked at the compilation process, specifically in C++, but a lot of the concepts apply everywhere. We looked at the use of makefiles to automate that. We looked at code reuse and code libraries and the use of templates, and in particular the standard template library for C++. We spent some time looking at bug reporting, bug tracking, and issues around that. We spent a little bit of time, not much, looking at time estimates and time tracking and how useful that can be for us. We looked at code standards. We looked at debugging and a couple of specific debuggers, right? GDB and Valgrind for debugging. We looked at code profiling, gprof and Valgrind. We spent some time on localization and internationalization and looking particularly at Unicode just as an example, and a little bit of time looking at graphical interfaces and thinking a little bit more about how our system interacts with the users. And we looked at a little bit of GTK, a little bit of Zenity, Zenity maybe for playing with Bash and GTK with C++. We got into code inspections and did a little bit of work there. And we spent a little bit of time looking towards the end there at service-oriented architectures rather than the sort of monolithic designs we've been looking at so far. And I spent some time on design patterns, just a little bit to introduce the concept. We looked at product deployment, we looked at product maintenance, and again, we spent a fair bit of time on software testing, right? Test planning, test documentation, test automation, unit testing, stubs, drivers, that kind of big V model for when you develop your test cases relative to what stage of design and implementation you're in. And again, we spent a fair bit of time also looking at developing test cases for a tool, for a product. Now, as far as the final exam goes, again, this year we're running it as a take-home exam, so you'll have 24 hours to do it. I'll release it Monday at 5, and it'll be due back in Tuesday at 5. So since it's take home, it's open book, open notes. You can use make and git and GDB and bash, etc. But of course, it's got to be a strictly individual effort. No communicating with anybody but me about the exam at all until the 24-hour period is up, right, until 5 o'clock on the 14th. And I'll give you 2 different ways that you can get at it and that you can submit it, and use whichever one you like. It'll be available from VIU Learn, right, our usual quiz process, except that it'll be available for a 24-hour period, and you should have pretty much unlimited access to it during that period. So you can go away and come back and go away and come back, and there's not a time limit on it. You just have to have it submitted by 5 o'clock on the 14th. I'll also make it available through our usual Git process, forking and cloning and pushing. And for that one, the repo name will be Final Exam, and I'll post that again at 5 o'clock on the 13th. And you've got until 5 o'clock on the 14th to do your final push. Just put any files you want to included in your exam answers into your repo. Make sure you do your Git adds, your Git commits, and make sure you push, and that has to take place by 5 o'clock on the 14th. Exam questions and styles. Again, looking at old exams is probably a pretty good way of getting an idea of what I'll do. Do keep in mind that the content we cover varies a little bit from year to year, so if there's a question that seems to be on a completely alien topic, it's very possibly something that we didn't cover this semester, so don't panic about that. Feel free to fire me an email if you're worried about a particular topic. The questions can be based on pretty much anything: the lecture content, practice exercises, the past quizzes, the labs we did, the course project. There will be several questions that specifically tie our course material to the course project that we did this term and your implementation of a solution for it, your design, your implementation. And there'll be a mix of sort of theory and applied questions. So some of them will be specific to Bash or specific to C++, or again specific to the course project, but or specific to makefiles. Right? So there will be some things that are very definitely applied, and others that are more discussion in general. It says 9 equally weighted questions here, but I can't remember if I actually wound up going with 8 or not. So it'll be 8 or 9 equally weighted questions. And again, the intent is that you can complete it in about 3 hours, but you've got that 24-hour period to look at it, go away, come back, look at it, go away, come back. Do make sure that you read the questions carefully, answer what I'm asking, and explain or justify your answers. For the most part, your explanation is the most important part of your answer to the question, right? Showing that you understand the implications of the choices that you're making, the options that you had to choose between, and why you chose the one that you did. Right? You're trying to convince me that you have a thorough grasp of the topic at hand. Now, in terms of getting ready for the exam, I think past exam questions should again be pretty representative. Obviously, since this is a take-home, the style might be a little bit different for some questions. I'm not likely to ask questions that say, what's the definition of blah, when it's kind of open book, open notes, and you've got 24 hours to just look it up and cut and paste it. So this will be the questions will be geared more towards, here's a situation, here's a scenario, discuss. Right? So past exams are available, so there's 3 or 4 of the older exams there. Again, several of the questions will deal specifically with this semester's project and your design and implementation for it. So do keep your implementation in mind. Do you have access to your code handy so that you can go through and talk about it reasonably? If you have questions before the exam, I'll have office hours on Zoom on the Monday from 1 to 3. The Zoom meeting ID and password are way back in one of the first announcements for the course. And of course, you can contact me by email or Discord. I'll be around most of the time during that 24-hour period. Well, not so much overnight, Monday maybe. I will have one gap from probably around 2:30 to 4 on Tuesday afternoon where I might not be readily available. But hopefully, other than that, I should be available most of the time. So I think that is pretty much everything. I hope you enjoyed the course. Please do feel free to send me feedback about what worked well for you and what didn't, either now or after the exam or after grades are posted or whenever you happen to think about it. It would be much appreciated. And I think that was pretty much everything I wanted to go through. Good luck, folks.